Welcome to video number 13 in using iTrain. My name is Bob. In this video we will be looking at semi-automatic and manual instant routes, and we'll be seeing how to interpret the block position information that is reported by iTrain. Welcome back. We have the layout from tutorial 12 loaded, and we're going to move DB car onto the west block. You will recall from the last video that we detached the original diesel from this train and attached the class 33 instead. If we right click on the block here and go to properties and then to the train, we will see the train properties, and here it is now showing that the loco at the front of the train is D6510, which is pointing in the forward direction, and the loco has a length of 20.5 centimeters and the wagons behind it have a length of 38 centimeters, giving this train now a total length of 58.5 centimeters. In the previous two videos we showed that we can create an instant route in iTrain by simply dragging a train from a block and onto another block. And when we placed that train, we were then presented with this drop-down menu or pop-up menu which showed the two instant route options, which is route and shunt. And when you selected either of those options, iTrain would then automatically run that instant route. In version 5.0.5 of iTrain, a new feature was added whereby if you press and hold the control key and then click and drag the block across to the destination block and release, you're now presented with a pop-up menu that has the option to run the instant route automatically, semi-automatically and manually. And the same applies for shunting. You have the same three options there as well. So what's the difference between automatic, semi-automatic and manual instant routes? In automatic mode, iTrain creates the route and controls the turnouts, the signals, the speed of the train, and the start and the stop. In semi-automatic mode, iTrain still creates the route and controls the turnouts, the signals, and the stop, but we control when the movement starts and the speed at which the train moves. And iTrain automatically stops the train at the end of the route. And in manual mode, iTrain creates the route, controls the turnouts and the signals, and we control the speed of the train. We need to obey the signals, and we must start and stop the train. So for this tutorial we will choose the semi-automatic mode. That gives us control of the throttle, so we have control of the speed at which things are happening. So we can slow things down and be able to see the sequence of events that occur during an instant route. And in semi-automatic mode we don't have to worry about stopping the train before it bashes into the buffer, because iTrain will control the stop for us. Okay, so we've just placed the train on the switchboard, And you will recall that the first thing we then need to do is to verify the orientation of the train. And we do that by putting it into forward gear and then checking that the direction arrow is pointing in the direction that we want it to follow. In this case it isn't, so we will flip it around by holding the shift key and clicking on the arrow. And then we create the semi-automatic instant route by holding down the control key and then clicking and dragging the block to our destination block. And then we release it and then go into route and select semi-automatic. Now you will recall that when we first place a train onto the switchboard, which also means placing it on your physical layout, iTrain does not know exactly where the train is. All that it knows is that it's been placed somewhere on this block. And if we were online and connected to the physical layout, the feedback symbol here would be illuminated. In the overview window down here, we can see that no position information is being reported, and if we double click on the block to bring up the block properties window, we can also see that no positional information is being reported here either. The first time that iTrain will receive accurate positional information is when we move the train forward from this block and the pickup wheels of the loco touch the tracks at the entry to this east block. As soon as the wheels touch this block, we will then start to see the positional information shown in the overview here. To start things off in semi-automatic or manual mode, we first need to give the train some throttle. Otherwise, if we double click on this feedback symbol to simulate the movement of the train, if we have no throttle speed, we will get an error here. So if I double clicked on this now, you'll see that the reservation has been lost and the route has stopped. So to reset the route is very easy. To get rid of this message, first we go into the control view here, double click on the message here, and that removes the message in the overview, and then we can press the control key and reset the route again into semi-automatic. So this time we will give the train a little bit of throttle first. I'm just going to move it forward to 0.6 of a mile per hour. And because we are in offline mode, we need to double click on the feedback here to simulate the movement of the train. Now, when I press or double click on this feedback icon, I want you to observe the position information that is shown here. You will see that the first value that is reported is 3 centimeters. So why is iTrain reporting 3 centimeters and not 0 centimeters when it first enters the block here? Have a go at seeing if you can work out why it is reporting roughly 3 centimeters, and I will give you the answer in the video that immediately follows this one. So watch the position information as I double click on the feedback sensor, which will start the movement in this offline mode. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, go. So 3 centimeters has been shown and increasing as the train moves into this block. We can see that the track has now turned red in color and the text in the block has turned solid black indicating that this is now the control block. The train has entered into the block. And this block here, the text has become light grey. The track is still red, indicating that this is now the release block. Part of the train is still in this block, but moving towards the other block here. The blue outline, remember, tells us that this block is responsible for releasing the turnouts when the whole of the train has entered into this block. The train, if you recall, is 58.5 centimeters long. You can see that we are now at 56, 57, 58, 58.5. It hasn't released the block yet. Why is that? It's at 64, 65. It released the block at 65 centimeters. Remember that. We will let the train now carry on into this block. The stop point, if you recall, is at 145 centimeters, 5 centimeters from the end of the block. We're in semi-automatic mode, so the train should stop when it gets to around 145 centimeters. When that happens, the train will stop, and this wait period shown here, 2 seconds, will then be evoked, and the orange bar in the block will then start to decay away. Now I'm going to increase the speed so that we can see the blue speed bar in here also. So let me just increase it slightly. So now you can see the blue bar. We're coming up to 145. The train has now stopped and we saw the orange bar decay away. So question number 2 from this is, why did iTrain only release the block after 65 centimeters and not 58.5, which is the length of the train? It's a tougher question, so I'll give you a little clue. If you go to the block properties here, your clue is somewhere on this window or in this window here. Okay, so the train has stopped and iTrain is reporting a position of 145 centimeters. If we go up to the block and double click on it, we'll be presented with the block properties window again. And let's have a closer look at what this all means and how we interpret the figures that are shown here. What it's listing is the name of the previous block, the current block, and the next block. The direction of travel is this way, so we can see that the previous block is the west block as listed here, and we can see that the next block, well, there isn't actually a block after the east block, and that is correctly reported down here too. The block we selected is the east block, and it has a total length of 150 centimeters. The train that is in this block is DB car. It has a length of 58.5 centimeters. Then we're given these 2 position figures, and we're told that the train is travelling towards the direction next, which is this direction. To help us interpret what these figures mean here, we'll use a post that Iain Morrison placed on the iTrain forum. So here we are on the iTrain forum. We'll go to the iTrain English section and then click on the FAQ, and then we see a post here called Block Position and Reaction Delay Explanation, and we click on that. Now Iain's post is about using block position to adjust something called the reaction delay. Now we're not going to worry about the reaction delay part of this, that's for a future video, but we can use his post to help us determine or interpret what these figures actually mean here. And if we run down here, we'll see this graphic that Iain has produced. So in Iain's example, we have a block length of 170 centimeters shown here. We have a train length of 50 centimeters, which is shown there. This column shows us the position in the block when traveling in the direction next. Next is in this direction here, and it's saying that the train is positioned 155 centimeters into the block. So here is the start of the block. We're traveling in the direction next. The train is positioned 155 centimeters in, which is representing the front of the locomotive here. And this column is telling us the position in the block if we were moving in the direction previous, so in this direction, and we measure it from this end of the block 65 centimeters in, which is here, which is telling us that the tail end of the train in this case is positioned here. So in our block it would look like this. We've got a block length of 150 centimeters across here. We've got a train length of 58.5 centimeters shown there. The position in the block in the direction next is 145 centimeters. So from the start of the block, 145 centimeters in, and in the direction previous, it's 63 centimeters in from this end. So direction previous 63, and that marks this end of the train. So iTrain is currently reporting the train position at 145 centimeters. But look what happens when we change the direction arrow here. It now reports it as 64 centimeters. So the reported position is dependent on the direction of the arrow here, which correlates to the diagram that we had earlier. 45 this way, 63, 64 going the other way. Okay, so one last observation and a question for you. Let's shunt the train back to the west block. So we hold down the control key, drag it across, and we'll select shunt semi-automatic. So we will be reversing the train into this block. When the train enters this block, when we double click the feedback sensor here, what position do we expect iTrain to report? If you remember, when we routed the train from this block into this block, it reported about 3 centimeters when it entered here. So now we're going backwards, reversing into this block. What value do we expect it to report when it first enters the block? Pause the video and have a think about it before I show you. So we'll increase the speed of the train slightly. The train is now moving, shunting back this way. So as soon as I double click on this feedback, this value will change, and we need to observe what that value is. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. So it was 40 centimeters that first came up there, about 40 centimeters. So that might surprise you, or you may understand why. Your homework, if you wish to do so, is to draw one of these diagrams to show why there is a value of 40 centimeters being reported and the reason why it is 40 centimeters for this particular train. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. All the answers to the questions that were posed in this video will be shown in the video immediately following this one. So you can click on that video now and see the answers. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye.